No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, I am your host, Drew Mandel. Ezzy with the night off tonight. He'll be back. He just said he couldn't handle waiting. The anticipation was killing him to watch the Jets and the Canucks tomorrow. He said he just couldn't handle the Jets and the Oilers. It's, he's a loyal trooper, that Ezra, a friend of ours. But
it's an interesting decision to pick a game against the Canucks versus a game against the Oilers. But
yeah,
such is the beautiful mind of Ezra Ginsburg.
The beautiful mind of Ezra Ginsburg, indeed, Dave. Exactly right. Some games that are low scoring are boring and they're uneventful. And they're not really your money's worth, as they say. That was not tonight's contest. A game that was 0-0 after 40 minutes. A game that was 0-0 after 50 minutes ends up with a 2-1 Oilers victory in the shootout. A very entertaining contest between two teams that really did not seem to like each other, between the Jets and the Oilers. A lot of history between these two teams, of course, for many, many decades at this point, but a lot of history for recent times, going back to the playoffs last year, and of course Tuesday night, and just a continuation of entertaining games like that between these two teams, that the Oilers end up taking the extra bonus point in the shootout tonight. Yeah,
it really had a playoff type atmosphere. It's had that feel for the last couple of games, I would suggest, between these two teams. Maybe we don't often say that, what happens in the playoff gets pulled into the regular season, because obviously a lot of time takes,
there's a gap in time.
There's a bit of a gap in time between those two things. So it's hard to have that continuity, bring it forward. But, these two teams, you've got two of the best teams. The Jets, I think, what did Dennis say? The Jets have points 13 of the last 14 games. So they're continuously, adding to their total.
That's a hell of a stat.
Absolutely. When people were ready to burn it all down after the first 3 games of the season, given what they've been able to achieve now and where they've been able to put themselves into the standings, it's a pretty impressive thing. And look, everyone was expecting an Oilers bounce back, right? The Oilers couldn't have appreciated what happened to them, in the last game in Winnipeg. And you could hear it in Dave Tippett's voice. He was talking about, the guys didn't have the jump, but I noticed they had the jump today. Okay, but in the first period, it was the Jets that seemed to control the play. The Oilers' chances were good chances. Connor Hellebuck was excellent, as he has been in the last few games, as you can see him return to form. Mm-hmm. But the Jets did, what did they outshoot them? It was
17-11 in the first period.
Right. So, the Jets were, and you got to give Skinner his credit, because he also played very well in his net. But the Jets, you kind of expected the Oilers to kind of come and bring it to the Jets. And that's, like I said, they had their chances, because when you have McDavid and Draisaitl, I don't care what team you're unless you're mobbing them, they're always going to get their shots. They're always going to get their chances. So I think it's a situation where you weren't expecting that first period by Winnipeg. And when you saw them do that, you thought to yourself, well, that's an impressive continuation of what you did in the previous game on Tuesday, that you're able to keep that rolling into a game that Edmonton is pissed off and wants to turn things around a little bit. And they've got their home crowd. They've been on the road for a little bit. So they're excited. They're pumped up to have that first game back home. And the Jets, like I said, in that first period, even though they didn't score, they really did, get their chances and get a lot of shots on Skinner in that.
The Jets certainly are probably going to rue their missed opportunities, particularly in the overtime period, where Connor McDavid takes that high sticking double minor against Mark Scheifele with 44 seconds to go. In regulation, the Jets get some chances in regulation. Where can you imagine if they got a clean 2 points in regulation, where they had the opportunities there? They're not able to capitalize. The game goes into the overtime period, and the Jets certainly absolutely pounded Stuart Skinner with shots on the power play. But Stuart Skinner really is the story of tonight's contest, much like Jordan Binnington was the story of the contest for the St. Louis Blues about 10 days ago or so, whenever exactly that was at this point in time. Stuart Skinner, a guy that most people really haven't heard much of, leads me to wonder why he isn't the Oilers' number one goaltender based on his performance tonight, based on his performance on Tuesday night in the third period. I mean, it's not like, Koskinen and Smith or anything to write home about. You might as well see what you got there, because if it wasn't for Stuart Skinner and his 45 saves in tonight's game, then the Jets probably win this one in regulation, particularly towards the end of the game there. Not to take anything away from Connor Hellebuyck, who was also excellent for the Jets, only giving up the one goal. And his rebound control was exceptional tonight. I thought. I can't really think of any rebounds that Connor Hellebuyck gave up during tonight's contest. So you have goaltenders who are at the peak of their games. You have two teams that don't like each other. You have an abundance of skill on the ice. I mean, I don't think anybody needs to be reminded about that. It leads to a very entertaining hockey game that ends up with the 2-1 victory by the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, that certainly didn't look like a 20th ranked Jets team. That's all I have to say.
Our friends at ESPN, I'm not sure if they were watching tonight's game or not, but that's what you're alluding to. If anyone missed it, if anyone missed an entire city's hair on fire, as apropos behind your head there, Mr. Manuk, our friends at ESPN.com in their
I don't think they have many friends in Winnipeg right now.
I'm still friends with them. They're still decent people. They, I think, blew that one a little bit, but
not a little bit. I mean, they
blew that one a lot.
Like I mean, again, I jokingly asked people on Twitter. I said, "Do people actually care about power rankings?" I don't care who they are, whether they're the NHL's, because the NHL came out with theirs today and said the Jets were 6th. But I just thought, it's like, who cares? It's such a stupid thing. And then but I did read it, and I was like, how did the Jets drop to 20th? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And now, like I said in the papers the next day, the Jets were, because Mike McIntyre wrote about it in the Free Press. That's true. John's right. He says with tonight's loss, Jets will drop to 30th on the ESPN power standings. But, Mike McIntyre wrote about it. I said the Jets are the Rodney Dangerfield, apparently, of the NHL when it comes to the ESPN. But the only thing I would have said in their defense was the Jets, they didn't take into account that Jets-Oilers game. Yeah, they still had it on the thing, but still, the Jets had they'd done enough to gain, not to descend. Anyways,
they were 8-3-3 at that point.
Yeah, I don't need to sidebar too far for that one. I just thought it was I thought it was funny, and I thought the Twitter verse was going kind of crazy over the Matthew Thompson with a good call. ESPN thought it was the New York Jets.
As he's not here to do the prize giveaways, Matthew, for that comment, you're getting a tough duck too. That's our hardest hitting comment of the illegal.
And we've only been on for 9 minutes, so I mean that's a pretty impressive.
There you go. You never know when we're gonna. Hey, I'm in charge tonight in terms of the prizes. You never know when we're gonna give away prizes. Matthew, congratulations.
Who are you in charge? Actually, I'm going to text Ezzy right now. I'm like, Ezzy, who'd you put in charge? Because I don't think put either of us in charge. To be honest with you,
Ezzy doesn't know where he's at. Doesn't matter. Anyways, Matthew Thompson, congratulations from our friends at Tough Duck. You have won a toque for the IC hardest hitting comment in the post game show. Matthew, send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com, or you can send me a DM on Twitter @ICDrew, and we'll hook you up with the prize from our friends at Tough Duck. So for that, you get that was the ESPN thought it was the New York Jets, not the Winnipeg Jets. So congratulations to Matthew for that comment. Anyways, everybody, good to see so many of you, so many familiar faces, so many new faces joining us on the Illegal Curve post-game show on this Thursday evening. We ask you, if you haven't already done so, smash that like button. I see Phyllis is in the comments section. Don't make Phyllis get mad at you.
Yeah, you don't want Phyllis to get angry.
No, if Phyllis finds out you haven't hit the like button, she's going to go after you, and that's a big problem. So be sure to smash the like button. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We go live after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, as well as Saturday mornings with the Illegal Curve hockey show. Dave, a lot of consternation, I think, comes from not the fact that Paul Maurice had 4 forwards on the ice to start the overtime period. That was a very bold decision from the Winnipeg Jets head coach, and I applaud it. I thought it was, you got Connor McDavid in the penalty box. You best be going for the victory at that point. Yeah. I think the problem that a lot of people had was the reliance on Blake Wheeler at the top of the 4-man power play unit. I would tend to agree with that, questioning of that decision. His shot for, forget about Blake Wheeler and whether, the role he should play. I mean, not forget about it, but, that sort of aside, I just don't think his shot is a big enough weapon from up there that he needs to be playing that spot right now on a 4-on-3 power play. I wouldn't necessarily have him out there to begin with, but if you're going to have him out there, I think you put him on the sidewall where he's more accustomed to doing things, and you put somebody with a big shot, Josh Morrissey, Ovechkin, or whatever they were calling him, Joe Vetchkin, Jay Movechkin. It should be Joe Vetchkin if you're going to call him that. By the way, Jay Movechkin doesn't make any sense, but Joe Vetchkin or Movechkin is a lot better than the alternative. Whatever it is, I just think Blake Wheeler's shot, being at the top of the power play setup there, doesn't do anything for me. It just takes it's one player. The Oilers don't really have to respect his shot when you play him up there at the top.
Yeah, there's no question. Blake Wheeler does not have a slap shot. So, I mean, he's not, Nikolai Ehlers you could put up there. I mean, he's got the speed to get back. And he's got a shot that, is fairly fierce based on what we saw tonight. Yeah. And important, actually, it moved him past Patrick Laine to the 7th all-time goals list with 141. So he leaves his old friend Patrick Laine in the dust, moving into sole possession of 7 spots. So, Nikolai Ehlers or Nate Schmidt or Neil Pionk, Josh Morrissey. I mean, all the talk lately has been of Morrissey's shot. And I think what Morrissey's done this season has been remarkable in kind of that rebirth of his play. Or as I jokingly wrote today in the papers, rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated. But I think it's one of those situations where, and how long was Blake Wheeler out there for? I mean, even after the Oilers had gotten the puck out of the zone, he obviously he's the last man back. So he came back and retrieved the puck. But I think he'd been on for at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes, it felt like. So, it's a question. It's a curious decision by Paul Maurice. I mean, he would have looked like a genius, I guess, because Wheeler did make 2 plays to keep the puck in the Oilers zone. Yeah. So it could have resulted in something.
He gets credit for those. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm saying it could have resulted in something good. But, like I said, you got to credit Skinner, because I thought the Jets had chances to bury goals on the power play, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois had a chance. Kyle Connor had a chance. Mark Scheifele had a chance. So the guys had opportunity to win the game. But just because you have an opportunity doesn't mean you get to bury it. These guys are world-class athletes. But, it happens, right? There's a reason why there's an expression called getting goalied. And I think that's what the Jets experienced tonight, right? They experienced a goaltender who was at the top of his game for the evening. And so, look, is he some well-known goaltender that, obviously he isn't. Obviously he's a guy who's getting an opportunity because Smith is dealing with an injury. But at the same time, you have to face who's in front of you. And Skinner, I thought was excellent when the test came his way, and when he was challenged by the Winnipeg Jets, he stood up to the test by the Winnipeg Jets. So, like I said, it wasn't the best decision, I would think, by the coach to use Blake Wheeler to his best benefit, because we've talked about it, right? Like, Blake Wheeler is ideally, you want to manage his minutes a little bit better, especially coming off of COVID, right? He had COVID, and I would imagine he's at relatively full. But, again, it's one of those situations where you look at him and you think, he's clearly not at the same level you're used to seeing now. Is that a function of the slowing down as you get older as a player, what people expect? Well, if that's the case, then you have to mitigate against that. You have to plan for that. Look, nobody's expecting Blake Wheeler to be a point-a-game player anymore. And again, like I said, I said this, I think, last year, or I probably said it this year, but I said it last year too. The truth is that if Blake Wheeler is a third-line player and he's making 8.3, throw away the money, guys. Forget about how much money he's making, because you can lament it all you like or don't like, but it's done. So the money is the money that he's making. So who gives a shit if he's playing in the third line and you've got other guys who have passed him and he's playing that role? Like I said on Saturday's show, if you've got Lowry, Stasny, and Wheeler, that's a good third line. So it becomes now it's the coach that has to realize that. We can all say that here. We can say it on the show. People can say it in the chat. But the truth is, Paul Maurice is the one ultimately who has to make that decision. But I think it's what we go back to, that idea of 9. If you roll those top 9 and you give you give Wheeler a chance to go up against, not up against McDavid and Draisaitl, but against, Kyle Turris, suddenly it's a little bit easier for Blake Wheeler to have success. And, the other thing is when you're not playing against those harder matchups, when you're not playing against the top D pairing of the opposition, well, maybe you have a little more energy for the power play if you want to throw him in the power play. Now, there's a question as whether he should still be on power play 1 or whether Wheeler should take his spot. And again, like I said, we don't ultimately make these decisions. We question why the Jets' power play isn't clicking the way it should, given the personnel that they have on it.
Yeah.
So
neither team's power play was any good, I would say, tonight. I mean, the Oilers struggled on their power play as well. And there's some times where your power play just isn't clicking. I mean, for the most part, both teams' power plays are not something that they're generally worried about. I mean, in terms
not the Oilers.
Not the Oilers. And the Jets' power play, for the most part, is, usually of decent quality. Tonight, it wasn't, especially in the 5-on-5, especially in regulation, their power play wasn't anything to write home about. But like I said, neither was the Oilers. So, I mean, I'm not going to lament too much about the power play. I'm going to lament, I'm sure the Jets are going to lament the missed opportunity, particularly in overtime when it's 4-on-3. But, again, I didn't love the decision by Maurice, is I think ultimately what it comes down to. And, I think if people had said, look, the Jets and the Oilers just played, over 120 minutes of hockey, 125 minutes of hockey, but forget about tonight's overtime. 120 minutes of hockey, the vast majority of that, which is played at 5-on-5, and the Oilers scored 1 goal at 5-on-5 in that time frame. I mean, that is a sign that things are going well for your team. I mean, this is the Edmonton Oilers, the dynamic, high-flying, score at will Oilers with Draisaitl and McDavid, and with Hyman and RNH, and with Puljujarvi and Yamamoto and Barry and Nurse, and I can keep going and keep going and keep going. But the Jets held them to 1 goal at 5-on-5. Yeah. And I'm seeing on the second screen here, Kyle Connor's talking to the media, and he's saying, if they look back at it, they liked their game tonight. The Jets did. That if they play that game, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, they get a victory when they play like they did tonight. And they certainly get a victory when they play like they did on Tuesday night. And I mean, I don't think we can overstate how impressive the following stat is, but the Jets have earned a point in 13 of their last 14 games. Yeah. Meaning they have 1 regulation time loss in their last 14 hockey games. You can't sneeze at that. You can be upset that they don't get the 2 points tonight. But ultimately, I think you have to look a little bit at you have to see the forest through the trees, which is that the team has earned points in 13 of their last 14 games, Dave. Yeah, I mean, and again, we talk about it throughout the course of these shows for the last, decade plus, is the idea that, what you do early in the season is so important. And this idea that the team keeps adding to the standings bank every day and is, not losing ground, but putting ground between them and other teams. I mean, that's not something to look past. And, this took a lot of energy, this game. So, I saw one of the comments in the chat is, you don't leave a lot for a Canucks team. Well, Justin's comment on the screen right now, hopefully tonight's loss leaves a sour enough taste in the Jets' mouth to not take Vancouver lightly tomorrow. Yeah. And I that wasn't the one I was specifically referencing, but there was another comment earlier just about the Canucks. And I just think I would expect Eric Comrie will get the net tomorrow. It's been a bit of time, and he's earned the right to be the goaltender, especially given how much work, Connor Hellebuck had tonight. So, I mean, you're going to want to give your top goaltender the night off. Mm-hmm. And look, I think the Jets, I think they're going to carry over what they did, and we'll see, right? This is a big test, this Vancouver game. One, for the fact that Vancouver is reeling, right? And they're it's kind of, I don't want to say funny, but we're so focused on what's happening in Winnipeg, of course, and what's happening with the teams here, that we tend to have tunnel vision. And every once in a while, I pay attention to what's going on in other markets. Mm-hmm. But it is a train, to say it's a train wreck. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's some sort of disaster, because they're actually going through a disaster in BC. So I think it might not necessarily be very nice to use that sort of reference, but it is a
train wreck of what's happening in Vancouver. So you've got this whole situation, like Jim Benning, the GM there, had to have another meeting today with the media and, everybody. And like this, I don't know how many people were paying attention, but this whole thing about the media is mean or something like that. I know that Vancouver media is a bit like they're aggressive. Don't get me wrong, but the idea that somehow
they're not unfair though.
No. And I mean, like one of the guys, I don't remember who said, you haven't had a good team in like 9 years. Like, what do you expect? You want them to pat you on the back? So, they're reeling over in Vancouver, but I think the Jets know that this is a big test. Like, you can't let your foot off the gas, and you have to pump Vancouver tomorrow. That really has to be your mindset going into tomorrow's game. You have to play the game. You have to play the game you played against the Oilers the last 2 nights. Show that you can keep doing that, regardless of whether it's Hellebuck or Connery, because
it's Connery. Maurice announced it.
No, I'm just saying, obviously, but I'm just regardless. We expected that. Good that you're confirming it. I'm just saying it's one of those situations where it wouldn't matter who, because the team now has that confidence playing in front of Eric Connery now 4 games, that from their perspective, regardless of who's in net, but they've got to go in with that mindset. They've got to pump the Canucks, and so not take them lightly, but if they play this game. If they had played the game they played the last 2 nights against the Oilers, there is no reason this Jets team, even though it's a back-to-back, shouldn't beat the Canucks like 5-1 tomorrow.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's easier said than done, because when you have fatigue, and be it physical fatigue or be it mental fatigue, and the Jets are probably going to have both, your attention to detail is not as good. I mean, I think certainly for tomorrow's game against the Canucks, and we'll talk more about that game after the break, is the Jets will need to get the first goal. I think the first goal in tomorrow's contest against the Canucks is it's important in all the games, but it's more important tomorrow night, so that a team like Vancouver that is fragile as fragile can be, they're a Fabergé egg. You want them to fall apart, before that first period is over tomorrow night. You want the Jets to come out flying when they still have sort of that adrenaline going through them early in the game, because that's usually how it works. You have a bit of adrenaline. You might still have a little bit of residual energy from tonight's contest that should carry over a little bit for the first, 10 minutes or so tomorrow, before it then will become more of a slog, because that's when the lactic acid in your legs and all the mental fatigue I spoke about will end up becoming a factor, sort of after that benchmark. That's why the Jets really need to get off to a strong start in tomorrow's contest against the Vancouver Canucks, a Jets team that has really controlled and been better than the Canucks in their head-to-head matchups for the last number of years. But of course, then you have the Tucker Poolman revenge factor for tomorrow night's game. So who knows how much that's going to also factor in, when the two teams meet tomorrow night. But first, we got more to talk about with tonight's Jets. You
don't want to talk about Drew. You don't want to talk about the pride of East Grand Forks.
We can talk about the pride of East Grand Forks later on.
Okay, well, let me just quickly answer. Comet asked about Paul Stastny, would like to know an injury update. So Paul Stastny didn't join the Jets on the road. He is still in Winnipeg. He is skating. It's only a 2-game road trip. They're coming back after the Vancouver game tomorrow night. So Paul Stastny is expected to start skating on it, or to be skating on his own here in Winnipeg, but he obviously isn't on the trip, so he is not available for tomorrow night's game against the Canucks. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. He, 4 goals, 4 assists in his 11 games with Winnipeg so far. He's looked good. And again, that's kind of that versatility, that veteran smarts. Maybe the power play would get going with Paul Stastny on it, because he always seems to know where to go and where to be. And, I mean, I think he's 16 years in the NHL. So he knows what to do. He's a smart, wily vet. And, like I said, the Jets seem to play better when they've got Paul Stastny in the lineup. Then again, as Drew said, and as we talked about from the broadcast, 13 out of 14 games, you've got a point. So the Jets aren't exactly limping along right now. Yeah. And again, look what they did against the Oilers last 2 nights. I mean, these were 2 phenomenal hockey games. And so if you're a Jets fan and you just went up against the number 1 team in the Western Conference and you take 3 out of 4 points, and you could have had 4 out of 4, you're probably pretty happy.
That's just it. I mean, I was on TSN radio in Edmonton earlier today.
Hashtag name drop.
Hashtag name drop. Exactly. Talking about tonight's contest. And, I said that, for, a while there earlier in the year, some of the people want to see the front of the hat.
I know, I'm turning it around.
There you go.
Giving folks what they want.
Yeah, give them what they want, and that way we can't see okay, there you go. Now we can see your pretty face there. For a lot of the year, people were saying, well, yeah, but who did the Jets play? Who have the Jets played? Who have the Jets played? Well, I mean, I think that, argument and that conversation can go away. It can't. I think that talking point is now, relatively done for, given the way the Jets have played against some higher up competition. Sure, you don't like the New York Islanders game. Totally fair. But the way the Jets have played the last 2 games against the Edmonton Oilers, the way the Jets played against the St. Louis Blues before that, I mean, it's, this Jets team does seem like they can play with basically anybody, in the NHL. This Oilers team was, towards the top of the league coming into Tuesday night's game. And, what's sort of, I was thinking as I was watching tonight's game, is the Jets have been playing different styles. On Tuesday night, the Jets, it was more of an open, free-flowing game back and forth that the Jets absolutely dominated. Jets, 5-2 final, flattered the Oilers in that, none of the Oilers goals were at 5-on-5. Tonight's game, much more tight checking, not nearly as much space on the ice. The puck was bouncing everywhere. It was a bit of a muckers game, as opposed, I mean, of course, the 2 goals that were scored in regulation happened to be beautiful goals scored by tremendous players. But prior to that, it was more of a muckers game. Not a lot of room out there, tight checking, tooth and nail fighting for every inch that you can get on the ice. And the Jets showed, I think, based on, this is my opinion, of course, the Jets showed that they can play either way. They can play the more freewheeling style that we saw on Tuesday. And then they can play this style, which is much more of a playoff reminiscent style. And the ability to be a bit of a chameleon with how your performance is and how your style is only goes to serve the team well for the remainder, going forward, knowing that whatever the game is going to look like, they're going to be able to handle that going forward. Yeah,
I mean, it's an excellent point. And like, look, the Oilers aren't a perfect team. I thought Dave Staples actually wrote an interesting article in the Edmonton Journal, which I linked in the afternoon links today, just talking about how Edmonton has gone out and addressed, a lot of the issues, that they needed to address throughout the course. And he was talking about what Ken Holland, the GM there, has been able to do. But he said that, the big hole still, and look, no team is going to be perfect generally in the salary cap era, but the 3rd and 4th lines, that's what they talked about. And so like, but they're still you're still looking at a team that's, one of the best teams in the NHL right now. And obviously Edmonton had hit a little bit of a, got to give Matthew Thompson credit. I like that comment. Come on, people, the like percentage is lower than the Jets PK. I agree with Matthew Thompson. Let's, I'm going to take a quick sidebar for my own comments just to focus on, Phyllis doesn't like the like ratio either.
Phyllis is getting mad at you people, and I would not mess with Phyllis.
Yeah, I mean, so let's that is important. I'm not usually I save it to the end of the show, but like I said in the last post-game show, why wait till the end so we can get all the people who are here in the middle? Make sure you guys smash that like button. It helps us with our algorithm, so we always appreciate that. Anyways, no, you're 100% right, Drew. I mean, that's kind of what I just had said also against the Canucks. It's all about being able to adapt your game, but also to be able to have the continuity. And it's muscle memory, right? If you have the muscle memory, look, Skinner had a phenomenal game. Connor Hellebuyck had a great game. So both goaltenders were very good. But if you're going to play that game against most teams in the NHL, you have a very good chance of winning. You're not going to win every game. You don't go through an 82-game season expecting to win every single game. So there are going to be instances where you lose, right? Something freaky happens, whether it's a goaltender plays well, a fluke goal goes in. There's always intangibles. That's the reason why you actually play the game. That's why, when prognosticators make their predictions and they say, well, I always laugh. I'm like, well, what's the point of playing? Because you guys have already predicted exactly what's going to happen.
I did 20,000 computer simulations and found out that 52% of the time this one team should win.
Well, exactly.
Thank you. I'm glad you've used your supercomputer for good, not evil.
Yeah. So I think it's just it's one of those situations where you're thinking to yourself, the Jets seem to have found something, right? The defense has like we've talked about, Dylan and Pionk really seem to have gelled. And that was the pairing I was a little bit worried about. I thought Schmidt and Morrissey almost from the outset have looked good together. Pionk and Dylan were the one that you're like, okay, it doesn't seem to be there yet. And I would say the last few games, it's more there. And that's a good sign for the Jets. And they've had that healthy back end to allow those guys, relatively new, to gel together and be together. And again, I don't want to start having a one buzzword, but developing that muscle memory of playing with each other. Because this is there's no Derek Forbort, there's no Tucker Pullman. The only pairing that is consistent from last year is DeMello and Stanley. So because of that, you're getting that you're wearing that newness off, right? 15 games in, it's not there anymore. Now you have that familiarity, and we've talked about it. Now you have a team like I said, the sample size was small early, so you didn't get overly excited when the first couple of games happened. Jets lost, whether they would have lost or won. You don't get overly, you don't draw too many conclusions from it. You're 15 games in. You've had a consistent lineup for the most part, other than obviously with the exception of Wheeler and Scheifele being out. But most of the guys have been in the lineup for a while now. So you're now getting a chance to really be able to draw some conclusions about this Jets team. And they are what we thought they were, which is one of the better teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right. It sometimes is that simple. The slow start and the struggles are definitely in the rearview mirror. The Winnipeg Jets losing tonight 2-1 in the shootout, but have continued to earn points, now earning 13 in their past 14 games played. Is it improving when you lose in a shootout? Is your record improving? Is your record maintaining? Is it?
I hate the shootout. I'm gonna take the Ezra Ginsburg position right now, because I know you're just trying to decide on the semantics right now and as everybody in the chat knows, I'm anti-semantic. Yeah. So
speaking of that, very fun. Did you enjoy Kevin's attempted use of chutzpah?
Kevin who?
Kevin Sawyer on the broadcast. I think I must have been the only one who picked up on it.
Well, you got it. When did he say it?
You may have been at the Moose game. Still.
I was at the Moose game. So
when did it was late in the second period.
No,
he was showing the Connor McDavid sort of. I'm trying to think who McDavid hit. He hit Scheifele, maybe.
Oh yeah,
gave him a little bit of the extra English, and Kevin Sawyer, and it was an admirable attempt. But he tried to say the word chutzpah, which
and it came out as a little bit with a chutzpah.
It was a struggle for those of you in the chat. Chutzpah is Yiddish for nerve, and it was a good attempt by Kevin, but he didn't quite execute it to the level that you and I with our
backgrounds,
skill set and our backgrounds are able to say that.
Anyways,
very well.
Yeah. So, anyways, the point is though that I'm going to get back to my rant. I said if that game deserved overtime, it didn't deserve the shootout. The shootout it's just so painful. It really is. And I don't really care who wins the game. I just can't stand watching a game that's that exciting concluded in that manner. It's just so boring. But
you're absolutely right. It is definitely an anticlimactic way to end a hockey game. But prior to that, the other 65 minutes of tonight's contest were definitely entertaining. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll preview tomorrow night against the Vancouver Canucks, talk more about what's in store. It certainly is a busy few days ahead for us with the Legal Curve. So stay tuned. We also got some bagels to give away. So if you want to hang out, maybe you'll win some bagels from our friends at Bagel Smith. Much more to come. Dave Manouk has his head on fire. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Stay with us. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, why are you so happy?
I just crushed 2 fresh Bagel Smith bagels with schmear. They're open on Jets home game nights until puck drop.
Didn't you have Bagel Smith for lunch too?
Yes, I did. What's your point?
Come on, Bagel Boy, let's go to the game.
Bagelsmith is Winnipeg's first and only Montreal-style bagel shop located at 185 Carlton Street. Visit bagelsmith.ca.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at rollies.com.
Boston Pizza, the perfect place for a drink. Or the new pickle pizza. Across from this guy, who's getting his fill of some classic cactus cut nachos. Next to some hockey fans that just saw a nasty OT winner. Boston Pizza. Enjoy some... What? Look at that guy. Just having a soak, eh? You do you. Enjoy some old fall favorites and some new ones, however you like, at Boston Pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. And 25 minutes before the top of the hour, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Dave Manouk with me. I am your host, Drew Mandel. We remind you we'll do it again tomorrow night after the Jets and the Canucks. Post-game show will be getting underway probably about 10 minutes from now, so maybe 24 hours and 10 minutes from now, right around 11:45 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. It'll be a late night and then a quick turnaround for an early morning with Saturday's Illegal Curve hockey show starting at 9 a.m. So, of course, what we always encourage you to do is smash the like button. That's first and foremost.
Yes.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way
that's also important.
Yes, very important. That way you'll get notified. That way you don't have to be sitting around waiting. Geez, what time did Drew say that the post-game show is going to start?
Bingo.
If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will get automatically alerted on your phone, on your tablet, on your device, on your computer. Maybe you have a desktop. I don't know. You could be. Maybe you're.
I have a desktop.
Do you have a desktop, Dave?
I do.
Okay, maybe you have a desktop. You can get alerted on whatever device you so choose that we're going live with either the Illegal Curve post-game show or the Illegal Curve hockey show. That's what we would recommend for you to do. We come back to talk about the Jets and the Oilers a little bit more. Let's look at some of the time on ice for tonight's game. Because
can we talk about this? Frosty Winnipeg just reminded me. Can we talk about that Greco-Roman wrestling match that we watched between Zach Cassian and Logan Stanley? What was that exactly?
I thought it was a reasonable fight. I wasn't quite sure I understand. I didn't quite understand your take on that one there.
It wasn't a fight. Like Cassian tried to engage him, and then
they threw some punches. I'm not sure if you had your eye. You may have had your eye on the Moose game a little bit too closely.
I don't know. I was watching. No, I don't think I was actually, because it was the first period of the Moose game. Oh no, it wouldn't have been. Maybe in the second period. You're right, actually, Drew. The Moose were scoring a lot of goals that period. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. It didn't seem like a very good fight.
Well, I mean, they each threw fists.
I'm not saying they didn't throw. I'm just saying they didn't.
They connected. You saw at the end there, Stanley was checking out his knuckles, and Cassian was sort of adjusting his jaw a little bit. There was definitely some fists thrown and some contact made between the two of them. Well, you know what, Dave? You just said the magic word.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You know what the magic word is?
I would imagine the Moose.
The magic word is Moose. The Moose were in action tonight. That means it's everybody's favorite part of the show. It's time for the Manitoba Moose Minute. Dave, tell us what happened in tonight's Manitoba Moose Milwaukee Admirals game.
Well, I'm not so sure I can contain myself to 1 minute, Drew, and the chat, simply because the Moose erupted in the second period. Yes,
wow.
Erupted. In the first period, it was a chaotic AHL style game. Neither team scored, but there were lots of chances. I think it was one of those, Burden and Connor Ingram were both up to the challenge and both played well. In the first, they had to, because their teams left them open defensively quite a few times. But then in the second period, the Moose just started to roll, and they scored 4 goals, and it was like hilarious. Like it was back to back to back, and you're trying to keep up with them, and I'm trying to tweet the goals and tweet what's happening and get the video out there, and like Perfetti scores to make it 2-0 on a really beautiful pass by Leon Gavanke. He's had a real nice, the 2017 fifth rounder for the Jets. He's had a really nice bounce back here. He didn't have a good last year for Manitoba, and he's a right side defensive prospect. So folks were kind of wondering, he's got some good offensive upside. How would he be? He didn't have a good year last year. He admitted that. He talked about how he needed to have a better year, and he really has had a better year. Not just from a points perspective, although he has already eclipsed his points total from what he achieved last year in a full season in quotes. But so he made a beautiful pass, and Cole Perfetti put it home for his 4th goal of the season. And then CJ Sisu, 2014 fifth rounder for Winnipeg, he scored in back-to-back games really quickly, maybe 30 seconds after the Perfetti goal to make it 3-0. And then Austin Pagansky finished it off. A beautiful drop pass from Perfetti to Pagansky, who made a nice move, put it home, made it 4-0. That got Ingram the hook for the third period. They put in their backup. And then they David Gustafson, the 2018 second rounder for the Jets, he's just been very good. And I know folks want him called up. He scored. The Moose power play, unlike the Jets power play, is effectively run. So, you've got so much talent. You've got Heinola. Heinola, folks, if you didn't see it, go to my Twitter or go to the Illegal Curve Instagram, because I posted on the Illegal Curve Instagram. Heinola made a move today that if he would have scored, it would have been highlight of the year sort of thing. It was such a nice
David-esque, if you will.
Well, it was in tight. He was in a lot of traffic. I mean, the Admirals aren't a great team, a lot of their prospects that they would, Milwaukee used to be a decent team, but a lot of their prospects are up with Nashville. The only guy who I guess would even qualify as a prospect was Winnipegger Cody Glass, who's actually played his first pro game in Winnipeg. He's played against the Jets, and I think he's played against the Moose, but in different cities. So this was his first chance to play at home, probably in front of friends and family. So that was nice for the Winnipegger, but the 2017 sixth rounder, I believe. But yeah, it was Dylan Heinola made a move that was ridiculous. So had he scored, folks would have lost their minds. Even just seeing what he was able to do was pretty impressive. And then Gustafson made it 5-0 on the power play. Milwaukee got a couple goals back, broke the shutout, made it 5-1, then 5-2. And then Gustafson scored a beautiful goal. Derek Meach, the former longtime Grand Rapids Griffin, Detroit Red Wings draft pick, and obviously played for the Winnipeg Jets. Now he does color with Dan Fink, and he called it an NHL quality caliber shot. And again, we've got that. You can see it on illegalcurve.com. You can see it on our Instagram, that sort of thing. But Gustafson had 2 goals to finish it off and make it a 6-2 win for the Moose. So it was a very good game to kick off. They've got a 5-game homestand going on right now. They'll play 2 more against Milwaukee, and then they've got 2 more next week against Texas, I believe. To answer Comet's question about Sandberg, he was good. He was very good on the PK. But it's his first game in a long time, so I didn't know what to expect. But that's the one thing we always have to stress about the AHL. Such a good opportunity for these guys to play. And, that Jets, I keep calling them the Jets, but the Moose left side, which is all Jets draft picks, Sandberg, Heinola, and Chisholm. And Chisholm was good. I saw there was a question about Chisholm. He, Dan always says he walks the line as good as anybody, and probably NHL caliber skating or getting close to being that. But, someone asked me during the game, they said, who are the defensemen would be NHL ready? And it's probably Kovacevic and Heinola. The other guys still need some time to get seasoning, in the AHL. But the Jets have a lot of good draft picks and a lot of good prospects on the back end. And Perfetti, he had a 3-point night, right? And and someone picked him to be first star of the game. I don't know who that was, but it was someone. But he had a good game.
What's wrong with your finger? It just seems to be spasming like that.
I'm not really sure. So it was a good all around effort from the Moose, and it's what you want to see when they're kicking off a 5-game homestand. It's supposed to be a good crowd tomorrow night, I've been told. So back to back with the Manitoba Moose, we'll be back at it. I will be back in the building doing another similar, and now I'll have a little more time because, of course, it's a 2-hour difference in terms of that's a 7:00 start. The Jets, I believe, in Vancouver are a 9:00 start. So I'll have a few hours before I've got to get going, but we'll probably see Arvid Holm in net. And my guess is Simon Lundmark, the 2019 second rounder, will be back in the lineup on the right side for the Moose. So don't quote me on that, though. We'll see, and I'll let you guys know on Twitter tomorrow.
Well, there you have it. That was tonight's Manitoba Moose Minute. Tonight's Manitoba Moose Minute is brought to you by the number 6 because it was actually 6 minutes long, but that's quite all right. Dave M with the insight and the expertise about your Manitoba Moose. Stay with us tomorrow night following the Jets and the Canucks, as there will be another Moose Manitoba Minute. Or is it Manitoba Moose Minute? Manitoba Moose Minute.
I didn't name that just in case anybody's wondering. I did not name it that.
No, I named that one. That one was all me. But in any event, it certainly is a highlight of our post-game shows here on YouTube. Before we wrap up tonight, want to give away bagels to our friends at Bagelsmith. I'm giving them to Frosty Winnipeg. Frosty Winnipeg, first of all, he sounds like he's cold, so I think he needs to warm up with some Bagelsmith bagels. And he's been in the chat, and he's been having some good comments, so I thought Frosty Winnipeg really brought his A game to tonight's Illegal Curve post-game show. So Frosty, send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com, or you can send me a message on Twitter @ICDrew, and we'll hook you up with some bagels courtesy of our friends from Bagelsmith. The Jets and the Canucks back in action tomorrow night. Sorry, I just saw Rob Mahoney saying, "Congrats, Frosty. I hate you, Drew." So
yeah, well, Drew, there's nothing stopping you from giving Rob, because Rob has been, I want to say he's been lobbying since the start of the show. So I mean, maybe you should give out a second one. I mean,
well, there's a post-game show tomorrow, Dave.
I know, but you know what, Drew? It's kind of like, be Oprah. Feel like Oprah. Come on. You get a bagel. You get a bagel. You get a bagel. Come on, Drew. Come on, Drew. Open it up. Open it up.
Okay, fine. Rob, send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com. Dave's convinced me you win some bagels as well, courtesy of our friends at Bagelsmith. But, Rob, if you keep being mean to me in the chat, I might have to withdraw your bagels and give them to somebody else instead. So this is a contingency bagels for our buddy Rob, who joins us here on the Illegal Curve post game show on a regular basis. There you go. Now Rob says he loves me.
There you go. Beautiful.
That's all it takes.
Alistair Clark wants a car.
I don't have a car. You got limits here. You got limits here, folks. What can I tell you? In any event, the Jets and the Canucks will be back in action tomorrow night.
But hold on, clarify. Comment saying if you give away tomorrow's bagels. Comment, we did not give away tomorrow's bagels. You can win fresh bagels tomorrow. And I'm going to have Moose tickets to give away. Sorry, Drew, I didn't mean to cut you off. No. Not necessarily tomorrow. Okay. Probably, I'm trying to think, how many games do we have next week? We have 4. On Monday, we have
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh my God. Well, we've got 2 Moose games next week, so I'll be sure to have the games against Texas. And these are premium seats, so we'll have. I think I've got 8 seats to give away for those 2 games. So
there you go. Dave's got Moose tickets to give away.
So no car for Alistair Clark. Oh, hold on. Matthew Thompson wants a Samantha Fox poster, which I actually have in my house, because as he left it here, when Ty in the brokery sent it to me to give to Ezzy. So we've got lots of stuff. And remember, one of our other big sponsors, Seagram's. We got a lot of Seagram's swag. We've got some fun stuff planned for. Oh, see, Corey remembered without my prompting. But there is going to be something fun coming with Seagram's. We've got some perhaps an event planned for December that's in negotiations right now. We're working on the details. But when that is all figured out, we're going to have some sort of event, hopefully, and perhaps a live post-game show of some sort, or a live show, I should say, to do something. But regardless, we'll be able to give away a lot of stuff. Some IC swag, perhaps, some Seagram stuff, some bagels. We're going to have a lot.
There you go. Can't say it any better than that. We encourage everybody to join us tomorrow night for the post-game show following the Jets and the Canucks. That'll be right around 11:45 p.m. So about 24 hours from now. Just set a timer. We'll be back at it here on our YouTube channel, all of our social media platforms. Reminder, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. on Saturday. So a busy 36 hours in store for us here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. I want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. They do a great job, and they're the reasons why these shows and the Saturday show and the website and all that good jazz is available and possible. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Bagelsmith, Boston Pizza, Seagram's. Get some Fireball in your system. It's almost midnight somewhere. And our friends at Rolly's Transfer support these fine businesses because they do their part and they support Illegal Curve Hockey. If you want any more information on becoming a sponsor of Illegal Curve, maybe you want your name, maybe you have something to give away, be it a toque or bagels or something like maybe bagel-shaped toques or toque-shaped bagels, something like that, you can send us a comment or send us an email, dave@illegalcurve.com, drew@illegalcurve.com. Either way, we'll get you some advertising information. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel on your way out. And until tomorrow night, right around 11:45 p.m., Dave Manook's head is on fire. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until tomorrow night, we wish you good night and good luck. And thanks for watching the Illegal Curve postgame show.